Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So we're back at Egret Marina once again, and after we finish off the main river patrol station last time, we're going to work on the settlement out front this time, beginning with the marketplace of sorts. So as always, if you like what you see, do hit that big red button, and let's get stuck in. So, a while back, I got a copy of The Art of Fallout 4, the concept art book for the game, which is absolutely awesome. It's really, really cool. I strongly urge you to check it out. And in there, amongst many, many things, is a little design for a settlement marketplace type thing, which is very cool and utterly impossible to recreate. But it did serve as the inspiration for this, and there's a heck of a lot of really cool stuff in there. So I shall have to go back through and get a few more ideas. But this doesn't actually, as I say, look that much like the original idea, but it's a strong starting point, so we can only use the tools we've got after all. So we're going to start off with the staircase in the centre, and this little technique I'm doing here with the concrete pillar works well for short staircases, but not really so much for one like this. So it will end up extremely wonky and just wandering all over the place if you do it this way. So I came up with a better solution. Though it is a useful technique, that one. So we're basically going to take advantage of the snapping. Much like this. However, there's a slight error here. Because if I try and build it side by side like this, which is going to be the end product, keeping it straight is going to be very difficult as well. So for the moment here, I'm just sort of figuring out where I want to position the each upper step, which basically is going to have that left-hand leg right at the join between the step below and the floor piece that it sat on, which gives it a nice easy mark to follow. Means it doesn't sit too far back, which if I do it here, it will do. Makes the whole thing look even more rickety. See what I mean? Push a little bit too far back. So we'll jam that back in there and adjust. Yeah. However, I made a slight error here. I've got the walls there on the side for a guide as to where I want the staircase to run up, something to help keep it straight. But just going straight at it like this causes a slight problem. It won't work. By the way, this is a very handy technique that Respawn has used a few times to stack boards up in place. That's just me chucking them down. Dead simple, just stand still and keep pressing X. I thought I'd just stick down the various bits and pieces I'll need just to speed the procedure up a little bit there. In principle, this is basically how we do it. Stair, snap on the floor piece, put the next piece stair on the floor piece, repeat. So we're getting them lined up now. I'm also trying to line up the left hand edge, which would have worked better if I'd made sure it was as far left as it could possibly go, which I didn't in the end. So, pro tip, don't make that particular mistake. But I've yet to figure out my major error, so I think we'll progress to that now. Yep, there we go. Not even close to straight. Massive gap there. So we will pull it apart. And we'll try again. So by taking the time to get this first step right, it saves us a lot of time and effort and irritation as well, I should imagine. If I'd just carried on there, I'd have gotten to the top and realised the whole staircase was curving round to the right, which wouldn't have worked at all. Scrap that settlement's getting a little excited about the leaves there, so get those out of the way as well. You can start to see it's still not straight. It's getting better now. Did have a slight issue with overdoing it and having the floor pieces want to start clipping through the walls. They'll still snap in, but again, we're just leaning the wrong direction again in the other way this time. So, handy tip that any snooker player probably knows about. The longer the distance, the wider the angle. So if it's ever so slightly off at the front, put 3 boards on there, you can see it a lot more clearly when you get to the other end. So we'll tweak it and get it right. The other thing to make sure you're doing is taking all the boards off, because if you just take the front one off and then try and snap the next one in, there's no way to be sure which of the 2 floors it's snapped to. So pull them all out and then put them all back again. Well, you can be sure you've got an accurate line on it. I think we're about right there. Very nearly anyway. So, what I'm going to do here is just focus on one half of the staircase first. That way we can do the second half much more easily, much more quickly, and we'll be sure it's correct. So we'll just move that piece into place, get those front feet lined up, which would be a lot easier if they were the same sort of distance forward in relation to the step, but they're not, so it's got to be awkward. So we'll jump a couple of the boards up, now we're happy with it. I'm using 2 because it gives you a little bit more space to position each step down onto. As if you just use the 1, it'll jump around and try and snap to the edges much more quickly. So it still wants to do it, but this way we can get it to sit there much more easily. There we go. And just make a few adjustments. As I say, if you take the time to get the first set right, the second set just goes in like an absolute dream, to be fair. It's very easy. There we go. A little rickety, but that's kind of what we want. The good thing about these staircases is when you finish them, if you double them up, like make them twice as wide as I'm going to in a moment, it makes it a lot easier for pathing. And if you're trying to get an area you want robots to travel into, or anything big, and you'll find that most staircases, or ramps either, if you're looking at the scaffolding tab, just won't allow for larger objects to get up there. Particularly useful for robot orientated settlements. You can do this and build a staircase that will cruise straight up. Tweak again. I'm sure you've got the general gist by now, so we will move on to my next major error. And I stop being so pedantic anyway. So, as this staircase is going to run higher than a single story, so higher than those wall pieces, which I should have realised straight away, the smart thing to do would have been to put the second floor on first, even though it's only a guide, but if you don't, you try and do it afterwards, this happens. Yeah, ends up totally wonky. However, stick an extra one on, build it out from there, and it worked. Doesn't really matter what side the upper floor goes on. There we go. We have our guide back. I did put the floor back in here just so that that gap's filled up and I can see where the edge is as I go past it. And there, I think, we about have it. In fact, that adjustment on the wall was doubly annoying because I only needed, but I think 2 more sets of stairs in there before I could reach the height I wanted. So there's a lot of faffing around right at the end. So, dead simple now. Just snap these extra floor pieces onto the side, just like that. And we're halfway there already. Now, we can literally just snap straight in the rest of the floor, the stairs. And it'll be neat and tidy, and it'll follow the line of the original set just fine. Easy. As if by magic, look how quick that was. There we go. Now when you look underneath the stairs, or straight through them rather, you can see the grass underneath, which makes them look even more rickety than normal. Which we won't have too much of a problem with here, because I'm going to put walls around the sides of it and stuff. So the end result will be that it's concealed anyway. This is a useful technique if you're not having space underneath. Just snap these floor pieces onto the side to get them into the right position. Just like that. And then basically line up the right hand edge with the outer edge of the top floor, which is what I'm doing here. And you do the same a couple more steps up. And it snaps in, there we go. And you can basically repeat that as many times as you like, and it'll make the whole thing look a lot more sturdy. But there's no actual need to be doing it on this one, so we will be pulling them back out again later. So stick the upper floor on, look how neatly that goes on, no problem at all. Take the guides away, and after spending 10 minutes building a staircase, let's push on with something else. Which I realise is quite a while, but it's a fairly useful technique to be able to do, so hopefully it's been helpful for some of you. So we're going to start on the upper floor. I realise I wanted this to be quite thin, as otherwise the thing just looks really chunky, which didn't really suit the aesthetic. Overall, to be honest, it could have done with being a little bit longer, but I've got to work with the space available. The actual end product winds up reaching well beyond the limit of the green settlement limit there, which I was quite pleased about. Yes, one drawback to using these single shack floor pieces: those wall and roof balcony pieces there do not want to snap to them. So you need something with a single straight edge that runs the full length of the eventual piece you're going to snap on, like that warehouse floor there. So now that's snapped in, we can pull it back out and put the original pieces back in. So the idea behind the pieces I'm using here is that I wanted the edge that faces outward towards the Commonwealth and away from the river and the rest of the settlement to be a little bit more solid and a little bit more defensible, seeing as the settlers would clearly figure that any attack is likely to come from that side. It means they're a little bit more out of the firing line if and when it should occur. So, some solid balcony pieces there. Wall ends, I suppose, not really balconies if they're closed off like that. And we'll go over to the ones with a bit of fabric and a bit of colour to them towards the inside edge. Now here, I made an adjustment that I should have done a little bit more with, really. The thing was a little bit too high. I wanted this, effectively the upper floor or the ceiling, to be a bit lower on the ground floor. So just that. It's also a little bit too close to the barricade behind me here. So, with a little bit of a tweak, and get that into a slightly better position. So I should have been a bit more aggressive with it, pushed it a little further back, but the end result looks pretty good, so we can live with that. I actually ended up, after I'd finished, pulling out a couple of bits and pieces that wouldn't stay fixed in place, and then using the same technique on the whole pretty much finished thing, which was a lot more of a faff to do, but it worked. Moved it a little bit further away. So we'll close off this front end. I did think about having this corner open. One thing I would really like to see is those corner pieces, but with half-high walls, like the ones either side of it. Unfortunately, we haven't got anything of the sort at the moment, so you have to either glitch something in or make do without. On this occasion I chose to make do without. Seal at the ends. No, not that one, not secure enough. Put some internal walls in. I do actually extend these later on, bring them a bit closer to the top of the stairs, because that gap's way too big. But as I use non-snapping pieces for it, we'll just stick these roofs in nice and quickly, because I'm sure you can know how to put a roof on. I actually came back to this and put the flat roofs underneath, which was fine for the corrugated ones, but the fabric ones I had to pull back out, set them all up on the ground, and then use select all and move them back into place. For some reason, the flat roofs didn't want to snap through underneath those. But let's move on to the ground floor. Seems we are nearly there with the main build now. These are barn pieces, because I wanted to stick with the wood aesthetic for the most part. And the regular shack walls are not quite tall enough for this. So I'll just use select all on the concrete pillar, move it up to the edge of the staircase. Doesn't matter too much if it's not precisely centered or a little bit ramshackle and off. And rough and ready, that's the phrase I'm looking for. Because that's kind of what we're going for. I'll keep the same thing on this side. Again, they're a little bit off center here, but in that sort of back right corner, I want to have a doorway anyway so we can get at the space under the stairs. So, by putting this on a slight angle to it, slightly further across, it leaves that gap there quite nicely. Eventually, anyway. One very handy thing is they don't tend to clip through the wood tab pieces that we've used upstairs. Gives you a very clear indication of when you've got it high enough so it doesn't end up sticking up through the floor. Which I was quite grateful for. So yeah, we'll seal that overly large gap up. And we'll have a doorway. What I should have shown you that I didn't was that I used the wooden pallets added by Unlocked Settlement objects to form a sort of wooden floor in front of this section, and the shack bridges that I used when I made the officer's mess and repaired the bar on the other side for the same thing. But apart from that, it's decoration, so let's get on with the tour. So I've got a few raider tents out for the general trading post aesthetic. A few bits of junk piled around, some boxes and barrels holding up the edge there. Those tents there that we're looking at now actually stick well out beyond the edge of the settlement limit. It's about nearly half of them stick beyond it, really. But by making sure I'd selected the pole that I wanted inside the limit, it didn't seem to have too much trouble with that. So move around the front. Got a few purple lights out because I wanted a bit more colour on this. The vendors are all standing on vendor rugs, so they do work. The thing to be aware of there is the animations are still the same, so whatever surface you put in front of them needs to be the same height as the initial trading post. Vendor stand, whatever you want to call it. So, the easiest way to do that really is roughly put everything in, put the rugs down, get the settlers assigned, then pull it out, put it on a rug, and use the rugs and concrete pillar to just move it back in under their hands. Still not perfect, as you can see there. Did this one here about 3 or 4 times. Yep, and then just carefully lift it up to the right height. So I've got a bit of storage under the stairs here. I've actually buried the wires in there so you can't really see them. Some display for the gun shop. Unlock settlement objects and a lot of patience to do this. Basically I just used select all with the concrete pillar to move those in, because for some reason the collision when you try and put them in directly starts to kick in, but it doesn't at all when you're using select all. Some junk for our general trader. And we'll have a look around the other side, which I've not really shown you very much of yet. So it's basically the same principle. We've got a few those supports from the ball track pieces from contraptions, and there's a shack bridge over the far end there. We've got a little food area. I did have a look this week at custom vanilla assets, which is where that fire effect comes from. However, as it's a work in progress, the mod's a bit of a mess and a lot of hassle. And there's items that just won't place and all sorts of things. I know there are ways around it, but it just wasn't worth the hassle to get it working, really. So I may come back to it again and try it once the mod's in a slightly more finished version, but we'll see what happens. So we'll move on upstairs. A few more coloured cycling lights there, just to give it a bit more atmosphere. There we go, doesn't that staircase look great? Not very much happening up here. I wanted it fairly Spartan. It's just a place for the vendors downstairs to sleep, so we've got a few beds, a bit of space to sit around. Here, we have something that's kind of cool. I have used a concrete pillar to raise up some sleeping bags and put those in place, and then rug glitched sofas directly over the top of them. Just realise it's clipping through a bit, but to my mind it just makes it look like the sofa's falling apart a bit. But you can assign settlers to them, and they will sleep on the sofa. If you want to have a look at it, I put a little 4-second video of it up on my Twitter page. It's worth taking a look. Actually, it should be on my Facebook as well. And the smoke, unfortunately, coming through is not ideal there, but it is realistic, I suppose. And that, more or less, is that. So go back down the staircase, and we'll head around the corner and take a look at the place in the night time. There's a lot going on here, but I do really like how it's turned out. Although I would have liked it a bit more if all the lights were sort of the metallic grey silver colour rather than the red painted Nuka World ones, but we don't have single lights in that colour, unfortunately. So we'll take a quick shufty around at night. Quite well lit up, looks pretty good. It keeps with the kind of shantytown built in front of the Minutemen base that was already here by people looking for, you know, safe harbour, really. Coin a phrase from Mass Effect, which I'm very much enjoying playing, and very much hope you guys are checking out as well. You'll find it on the channel. Absolutely awesome game. To be honest, I was kind of reluctant here with some of the junk decoration. I wasn't really feeling all that enthusiastic, but I'm kind of glad I did, because I'm really pleased with how it's come out. I think it looks really good. Certainly on that side of things, I think it's one of my better ones. I was shifty around at the bar area, which even the Minutemen like to hang out in after dark. There's a lot of people hanging out here now. I think there's most of the traders here and a couple of Minutemen. We'll not look too closely, otherwise we'll get snagged up in all the furniture there. There's not a lot of room to move around in there. Unfortunately, that back corner, the ground rises very, very sharply in, so had a little bit of a space issue there. And unfortunately, the lights downstairs are shining through, perhaps a little more than they should, but a nice atmospheric, somewhat dingy spot with plenty of colour to it, which I quite like. Nobody's sleeping just yet, it's a bit early in the evening for that. And there we go. A little bit of a dining area in the corner. And we'll make our way back out. So, I hope you found that helpful and enjoyed it. As always, do follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook and Twitter at /Darth Games. If you liked what you see, do hit those buttons for me. It's always very much appreciated. Drop me a comment, let me know what you think. And I will speak to you soon. Thank you very much for watching. God, I had to put that gun shop sign there so many times, it's like 4 or 5 attempts. Every time I adjusted something. Thank you very much.